Well, it's been a while, Mr. Geldof. How are you?
I'm very well. If I hadn't done 900 of these things already this morning. But Janice, for you, I'm up. And
well, I was slightly disorientated, actually, because I overslept.
You've just got up. But
and
thank you.
Like, diddly-dee.
Thank you for my birthday present.
Oh, good. It's my favourite book, just about perfume. And I was just passing the bookshop and I thought, I'll get you that little gift for your birthday.
I just read a mega retrospective, really, of Tom Robbins, which was saying... see, I'd only ever read Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, but I can't remember it. I just remember the cover.
Well, that's great. I've read that a few times, actually. And I don't often revisit books. Do you? Can you revisit stuff?
I want to, but I can't. And... I used to love Graham. I still love Graham Greene, but I went back and read were they as good as I remembered, and they were. But then I got caught up in this sort of childish Catholic morality thing, and you wonder, sort of like, it dates them so well. The writing's not dated, but it dates them, which is a drag. Even War I can reread, easily, but not really. I don't reread.
Midsummer Night's Dream I like reading again and again.
I could never get my head around Shakespeare.
Really?
No.
Was that a school thing, or...?
Yeah, I mean, I really loved poetry. I mean, I never achieved much in school, but I was very lucky that I had 3 English teachers in a row who could read. And I remember exactly when I turned on to it. It was one of them, this priest reading Paradise Lost by Milton, and I was bored at the back, doodling away. And suddenly, whoa. Hold on. And it sounded like, especially Paradise Lost, it sounded like Dylan.
I love Paradise Lost.
It was that time, or, this mad whiter shade of paley type lyrics. So it suddenly sounded like that. And he read it, and he said, write an essay on the first 11 lines or something. And I wrote pages about it, And so I was very lucky. 3 in a row I had, yeah. So, but I never got Shakespeare. I mean, they try, I just never saw it, and I keep reading about, obviously he is a genius, it's just that I miss it, and when I've ever gone to a play under duress, the only one I saw that I liked was Dustin Hoffman doing Shylock. And he made it seem real, but the other, the usual sort of thing. And so, my lord, I once hence the destiny. 1, 2, 3, shut up. What are you saying? Speak normally.
Exciting year for you because Isle of Wight.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I read stuff about you, and you were obviously loving every second of it.
Yeah, I was buzzing, as the old expression was. It was fantastic. I loved it. Yeah.
The conscious decision from 4 of the band, because Jerry and Johnny aren't.
Jerry left not relatively early, about mid-period, and he has his own thing. He plays acoustic mainly, puts out acoustic stuff, albums. The last one was really good. He was sort of based on cities around the world, but he has his own business, which is phenomenal. It's called Intellectual Animals. So nearly all the animals you see on television in ads or movies, that's what he does. He trains them to be pigs or whatever.
That little dog that looks as though it's listening or whatever.
That's what or the pig in Private Function, that's him. And, I called him about a month ago and I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm driving a herd of cattle up Kilkenny Main Street. that was the job. Not much training there, but there you go. So he does that. And John is in Japan, and he produces and writes, and he's sort of the main interlocutor between the Fuji Festival, which is the big Japanese festival, and the agents and things over here. So, he's over there doing that stuff. So it was the 4 of us, and we have a fingers alike replacement with Al Dunn, who plays with me, and then Daryl sort of does Jerry, and he plays with Gary and Simon normally.
I'm looking forward to coming to see you. You're kicking off the tour.
Looking forward, gagging, I think. I mean,
not a phrase I use.
I'm
even gagging to see
vague
Geldof.
Justice,
But yeah, you're kicking off in Belfast. I noticed you're not doing Liverpool. Why aren't you doing Liverpool?
They hate us.
They don't.
I don't know why. I mean, yeah, it's a good point. probably can't get arrested in Liverpool. What can I say? You know.
But looking forward to going on the bus and on the road again.
No, I'm not. But I mean, I've done it forever. I mean, for the last, well, the Rats haven't played for 27 years, but I've been doing my own thing, and I think that was a lot to do with it. I mean, I was playing Singapore on Saturday with my own crowd, and so I've always done the bus thing, I suppose, but really what brought this on was John Giddings, who used to be a Rats promoter, bumped into Simon and Gary and said, look, I'm doing the Isle of Wight. He does the Isle of Wight now. I'd love to do the Rats. Would Bob think about it? And, offered us vast amounts of cash, as you can possibly imagine. So I immediately said, yeah, Because
you're strapped on you at the moment.
No, they rang up, and because I just finished working this solo album I had about 18 months ago, and I toured it and all that, and that had done well, so I was feeling pretty up. 27 years had passed. There was a curiosity, once it had been put to me, there was a curiosity about, it wasn't something I thought about, but once it was put to me, I thought, were we as good as I fondly imagine? When I hear tracks of ours on the radio, amazed that they've lasted, I crank it up and think, God, that's good, I mean, forgive me, but I do think that. And I thought, well, okay. And then the Isle of Wight, you see, I'd been to the Isle of Wight when I was 19 and seen Hendrix and The Doors and Leonard Cohen and The Who and that. And wow, to play on that. If they'd said, do you want to go back and play Shepherd's Bush Empire? I said, no, I don't. I really don't. But the Isle of Wight, hello? Sort of Lord, yeah, And so we got together, and sheepish grins all around. I made it clear I wouldn't do nostalgia. I can't stand it. If it sounded nostalgic and inappropriate and irrelevant, I wasn't going to do that. So they started up playing, and there was Pete playing with Simon again. Pete always played with me solo, and Gary, this sort of mad, loud guitar player. But the power of it really took me aback. I'm not saying that trying to get people to go to gigs. It really took me aback. I just thought, that is excellent. And I opened my gob to sing Looking After Number One, and I sang the first line, the world owes me a living, and I thought, yeah. And then I listened for the first time in years to the words of those songs, and very far from being nostalgia, they were immediately contemporaneous. I mean, I'd written Looking After Number One on a dole queue in Dunleary in November 1975. I'd scratched it on a receipt from McCullough's, was the shop. And I don't do sound check. And we'd played in, I think it was somewhere like Hull or something, relatively recently. And I don't like sound check, so I wander around the place just having a look. And I saw a lot of kids, 19, 20, just wandering around, like no chance of work. And I just thought, were I this age now, I'd write Looking After Number One. Like, I've waited on this dole queue too long. Standing in the rain 15 minutes, that's a quarter of an hour too long. I don't want to be like you. I'm going to be like me. And then I did, songs like Someone's Looking at You, and we just read where Obama had been listening in on our mails and on our phone calls in Europe and America. Google and Facebook mining your head and selling the information. Walk through London, your photograph is taken 3,000. I wrote Someone's Looking at You in 1980. The week before the Isle of Wight, some joker had just shot his parents and friends again. So when I did Mondays, that was in my head. Rat Trap, there I was, stuck in the abattoir. How the hell do I get out of this one?
Nothing's changed.
Nothing. But that's a great failure. It's a great failure of my generation. You're younger. But I've said it before, all generations fail, but ours more spectacularly than most. And unfortunately, well, for me anyway, rock and roll is not the cultural linchpin around which we circle any longer. So there doesn't seem to be that event-driven music that believes it can change
Why is
things.
there so much apathy, though? Because we all sit there private...
I don't think there's
apathy. Do you
apathy.
not think there's apathy? I do.
I think disengagement is different from apathy. You know, it's when you only focus on trivial things and the world is a good place. Except that people are focusing on trivia, and it's a difficult world. And I don't think rock and roll any longer is the place to project that. I think that other forms of media have taken over.
We're going to take a break for some music. I did actually play Looking After Number One earlier. So now, something of your choice. And you picked Mercury Rev, haven't you?
I picked Holes from Deserter Songs, which is an absolutely beautiful record.
Met them.
Yeah, because I was DJing on XFM for a little while.
That's right.
And I kept pushing their album. And they came in one day and did it live, did a few songs live. It's, you know, beautiful music, you know, so yeah.
You travel, obviously, all of the time. What excites you most about getting home? It must be seeing all the girls, the 4 daughters, and the grandchildren. Astala and Phaedra.
What excites me most is not seeing any of them, but sleeping a lot, you know. It's not as if they cluster around, like, you know, clutching my dress, you know, going, Dad, we've missed you so much. Oh, God, yeah. But, you know, there's none of them at home now. There's only one of them at home.
Yeah.
I mean, I try and go away, come back, go away, come back, go away, come back, go away, come back. I mean, I don't like going away so often. It's just that that's turned out to be my life. My dad was a commercial traveller. He'd go from town to town selling towels. I'm a singer. I go from town to town selling tunes. And, you know, we ended up in the same.
And, of course, you're in demand for all of your other work as well. I mean, your life changed on the 13th of July, 1985, didn't it?
No, because I was always politically active. I mean...
But then you're suddenly a global figure.
Yes, but, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, over and above music, in as much as that we could the Rats could play almost anywhere on the planet. But, you know, because people listening to this programme and you and the producer, that we think that everyone is intimately involved with music, that their life is centred on it. That's simply not true. It's a minority sport. Even the biggest selling artist of the moment is only selling tens of millions. I mean, if you take a DJ like David Guetta or something, you go to YouTube, 65 million hits. Dude, there's 7 billion people in the planet.
Exactly.
You know, so it's always a minority interest. And once you become a social phenomena, then things differ. I mean, I'm in no way putting myself in this bracket, but if you take the Beatles, they were far more famous as Beatles than in any number of records they sold. Their haircuts, their Pierre Cardin thing, their cheeky irreverence. What they indicated was sort of important. I'm not doing that, or I'm not in that bracket. I'm just saying once you remove yourself from music and go to somewhere else where people know you. And in the case of the Band Aid, Live Aid stuff, they all joined in on that. It became their thing, and you became the guy. And so, but it was for 2 years intensive, and so the Rats came to an end. And then at the end of it, when I could resurface and breathe, I had to go back to that which was instinctive and intuitive for me, music. But the band wasn't there any longer, and I remember people saying, how can you go back to something as trivial as music after this? Except for me, it was the least trivial thing. It was music that had generated. When Midge and I wrote that song, when Midge produced it brilliantly, you know, and then when one evening I'm sitting at home watching telly and the phone rings and goes, hi, can I speak to Bob, please? And I go, you know, and, you know, so we did the USA for Africa thing, but, that was music. People forget that. Like, Live Aid was pure music. It was taking what rock and roll had always promised, in my view, and suggested, and saying to the rest of the planet, this is happening. We disagree. And people saying, yeah, you're right. So they forget that, you know, I only ever see it through music.
Okay, let's pick another track of yours. Which one would you like to play for us now?
Venus by television. It's I heard this in 76 or 7, and it was, a great revelation that one of the progenitors of punk, Tom Verlaine, that you could just do this entirely beautiful music, and still it suggested otherness, it suggested a rejection of it put together whole future panoramas for you, and the words are beautiful. The world is so thin between my bones and skin. I mean, what a line, and that's what you feel like a lot of the time. Great record, Marquee Moon by Television. This is the track Venus.
I'm going to slip in a track now, actually. I'd like to play Violet and YOU.
Oh, no, don't. Play Where the Wild Things Grow.
Okay.
You can get it off SoundCloud.
Okay.
And play that, because I love that track.
Okay.
She's really good, this girl.
Going places.
She is.
And in fact, it's Pixie who's making music. The only one that's gone on to make music. Did you think you influenced her?
Oh no, she rejects, quite rightly, she rejects any interference or influence or suggestions or help. That gene seems to have, transferred itself, completely. Yeah, but she is, this sounds terrible, it sounds like Proud Dad, but if you just played me this person and said, what do you think? I'd have gone, people say there's no new stuff going on in the UK. Wrong. It's fantastic. I've went to see her live. It's really interesting. I listened to the songs, and I think they should come up to, go up an octave to indicate the song is moving on, or a chorus here, a middle eight. She goes, no. Okay, good. And I say, but do you not think no? And, she doesn't really like performing live, but when she's there, she's so at home on a stage. I mean, it just gives that confidence, even though she may not feel it. And then you either accept what she's doing, like the track we've just played, that's it, or she doesn't care. And of course, once you've got that confidence and this band, they all go along with it. I mean, and, the reviews are mega. No, I mean, she's the real deal. I mean, whether she wants to end up doing it, I don't know. But, I don't really talk to her about it. I mean, Peach was in a band for like 5 minutes, bonkers band, yeah. Never encourage them to do like any specific thing. Whatever they want to do is cool.
And when you went to see her play live, did you let her know that you were going?
Well, I wasn't allowed to go to the first gig, which was in a pub, and there was about 12 people, but I lurked behind a pillar and I filmed some of it. The next night was the second gig, which was about 400 people in a packed Carnaby Street place, so I lurked behind another pillar and filmed that. And I've got it, and I played it to Rupert Hine the other day, and as you know, Rupert was a big artist, but also producer of Stevie Nicks and Tina Turner and The Fix and all these people, and he just went, what? Yeah. Just thought amazing. And Nigel Grange, who signed us, and Thin Lizzy and Status Quo and 10cc and the Water Boys and Sinead O'Connor, and his brother is president of Universal. I showed him a bit of it and played him some tracks, and he goes, oh, don't believe it. That's the way he speaks, yeah. And he just went, wow, I don't tell her this stuff, and because I don't interfere in any way like that, but she does fire me down new tracks, new songs. She wrote some with Linda Perry, who ain't no slouch. And it's good stuff. I mean, I like it. I like it because I know that world, and so you can talk on an absolute equal level, about it. So that's fine,
Pick another track.
I think this is from the Orpheus and the Lyre album by Nick Cave, and it's not forgive me, I may have got this wrong. I don't think this album was listened to very much.
I love it, though.
Yeah, I
love
it.
Great album.
I mean, there's 3 absolute corkers at least on it, and this one is the song Breathless. I mean, he writes fabulous love songs. I mean, they seem so simple, and they conjure up a whole universe of just being in love with a beautiful woman. I mean, effortlessly, you know.
Breathless, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds and Breathless and Bob Geldof talking to you. So off on the road in a couple of days. It's Belfast, Bournemouth, Cambridge, Norwich, London, Bristol, Nottingham, Leeds, Manchester, Glasgow, Newcastle, Birmingham, Doncaster, Dundee and Aberdeen.
I'm already exhausted. I'm
Just
very
the thought of it.
old.
And have you got the outfit?
Hello, the outfit?
Didn't you have a suit made for the Isle of Wight?
Yes, I did, and it will be on display at all those places. Forget the
It'll
music.
get a bit sweaty if you're wearing that every night.
Girls love it. They love the stink. I've never washed. I haven't washed for 27 years. Been saving up for this moment.
I think it's funny, actually. You do get a lot of comments. I was like reading about you, and people are going, well, he never washes, does he, Bob Geldof? And you think, good God.
No, I am a style icon. I want to, and I don't even need to play with the band. I'll just send the snakes in out there. No, I had to be Bobby Boomtown again.
Yeah.
And again, like the first thing was hearing the band. I'm in another space away from my thing. But the second thing was those songs, and then. But how do I become the frontman, the singer, only the singer, How do I express the collective of the band? How do you do that, without thinking about it? Of course, the minute I stepped on stage and the Isle of Wight, I was giving it large, yes, come on, which is not what I do at my thing. My thing, I've got a guitar and I chat and, I move, but it's not the same impulse.
So there's two Bobs, isn't there?
There's several. So I thought, how do I do that? How do I feel rock and roll? And I said, I know, I'll get a snakeskin suit made. So I did, and full snakeskin for all you concerned listeners out there. And I put it on and went, yes, this is it, mate. And I put it on at the Isle of Wight. I told the band about it. They said, what are you going to wear? And I said, and they said, I'm going to wear this and that. And Pete came out with me shopping to sort of second-hand gears, and stuff like that. And but I put it on for the first time and they were all going, actually, that's not bad. So,
and did you get any of the emotion that you had 20-odd years ago?
I got more of an emotion this time. Again, not emotion, but an awareness that I was in a great band. I'm serious, I don't care, people can puke and turn off now. You don't know that when you're kids. It's just the noise you make. And we started at the same level like all bands of inadequacy and incompetence, except for Simon, who came out of the box a great drummer. I mean, he's great. And we grew up simultaneously to a level of competence. And then you're old, and you couldn't care less. Back then it was, are we selling faster than the Pistols? Have we sold more than the Clash? Are we getting better reviews or worse reviews than Elvis? That's what it was. And then you're in another bus and tired, and I'm doing another 50 interviews, and the guy behind you is in the band, the guy in front of you is in the band, and you share the room with another guy in the band, and it doesn't stop.
No.
And so you can't think about, am I in a good band or not? You go on, the crowd go crazy, and you come off and go, what are we going to do tonight, And then revisiting, regrouping, you go, that's a really good band. That's not a mistake. That power and those songs, no wonder they were hits. No wonder it went up the charts. So there's that. And so there's a first-time feeling of pride in something you achieved a long time ago, and that it's not embarrassing to want to make those songs revivify, not relive, but, suddenly put that energy back in them. And also the fact, as I keep saying, that they are as relevant today as ever. And so when I go out in Doncaster, or when I go out in Birmingham or Bournemouth or wherever, it will be absolutely, I will be in that moment. And I know that from doing the 4 or 5 we've done, and the pure pleasure I get out of it, But at the same time, I get a pleasure out of my own thing. But it's kind of interestingly, wildly different, the sensation.
Well, we did ask you to read something for us for the spoken word session.
Okay.
And you have a pile of books in front of you.
I didn't know how this one goes, so do people read...
Did you know Seamus Heaney, by the way?
Yes, I did very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got Seamus's book there. I've got Yeats, who's sort of my north. Have a load of people done Yeats?
No, Seamus is very popular.
Okay, what about Philip Larkin?
No, we haven't had any. I didn't know if we had one Philip Larkin.
So this is Philip Larkin. This is the Whitsun Weddings. I mean, I like Larkin because, he's the great post-war poet, in as much as Francis Bacon was the great British post-war artist, and he's so British. But I always associate him with jazz because he was obsessed with jazz. But he was a librarian in Hull, but he was an eminent academic. But he chose to live all his life as a librarian in Hull, and he sort of lived in bedsits. And I always see him with these sort of naked light bulbs. Well, he writes about them and the jazz records and these dodgy relationships. And this one, he's coming down from the north on a train journey one Sunday, one Whitsun weekend. And, my dad said, what poetry are you reading? He was very old at the time. He was about 93. And I said, Larkin. And he said, read me a bit. And I read him the Whitsun Weddings. And when I came to the end, he went, by God, that's something. So this is the Whitsun Weddings. That Whitsun, I was late getting away. Not till about 1:20 on the sunlit Saturday did my 3/4 empty train pull out. All windows down, all cushions hot, all sense of being in a hurry gone. We ran behind the back of houses, crossed a street of blinding windscreens, smelt the fish dock. Thence the river's level drifting breath began, where Skye and Lincolnshire and water meet. All afternoon, through the tall heat that slept for miles inland, a slow and stopping curve southwards we kept. Wide farms went by, short-shadowed cattle, and canals with floatings of industrial froth. A hothouse flashed uniquely. Hedges dipped and rose, and now and then a smell of grass displaced the reek of buttoned carriage cloth until the next town, new and nondescript, approached with acres of dismantled cars. At first, I didn't notice what a noise the weddings made, each station that we stepped at. Sun destroys the interest of what's happening in the shade. And down the long, cool platforms, whoops and skirls I took for porters larking with the mails, and went on reading. Once we started, though, we passed them, grinning and pomaded girls in parodies of fashion, heels and veils, all posed irresolutely, watching us go, as if out on the end of an event, waving goodbye to something that survived it. Struck, I leant more promptly out next time, more curiously, and saw it all again in different terms. The fathers with broad belts under their suits and seamy foreheads, mothers loud and fat, and uncles shouting smut. And then the perms, the nylon gloves and jewellery substitutes, the lemons, mauves and olive ochres that marked off the girls unreally from the rest. Yes, from cafes and banquet halls up yards and bunting-dressed coach party annexes, the wedding days were coming to an end. All down the line, fresh couples climbed aboard. The rest stood round. The last confetti and advice were thrown, and as we moved, each face seemed to define just what it saw departing. Children frowned at something dull. Fathers had never known success so huge and wholly farcical. The women shared the secret like a happy funeral, while girls, gripping their handbags tighter, stared at a religious wounding. Free at last, and loaded with the sum of all they saw, we hurried towards London, shuffling gouts of steam. Now fields were building plots, and poplars cast long shadows over major roads, and for some 50 minutes, that in time would seem just long enough to settle hats and say, I nearly died, a dozen marriages got underway. They watched the landscape sitting side by side. An Odeon went past, a cooling tower, and someone running up to bowl. and none thought of the others they would never meet, or how their lives would all contain this hour. I thought of London, spread out in the sun, its postal districts packed like squares of wheat. There we were aimed, and as we raced across bright knots of rail past standing Pullmans, walls of blackened moss came close, and it was nearly done, this frail travelling coincidence. And what it held stood ready to be loosed with all the power that being changed can give. We slowed again, and as the tightened brakes took hold, there swelled a sense of falling, like an arrow shower sent out of sight, somewhere becoming rain.
It's terrific, isn't it? It's absolutely wonderful. And you're there all of the time, and all of the images. And it's exactly how when you do a journey yourself, and all of these thoughts are going through your head, what's going on there, and that's going on over there. That's absolutely magnificent. Do you want to read some yet? So you've got time, or...?
I'll read a very quick Yeats. Yeats, I think, more than anyone, has actually influenced rock and roll more than any of the poets. Certainly Dylan and Van, clearly, but others as well. The Waterboys, all these guys. He's the great lyric poet of the 20th century. This is He Wishes for the Cloths of Heaven. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, enwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half-light, I would spread the cloths under your feet, but I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams.
Wonderful. Bob, thank you for your time. It's been great to see you. And if anything, well, I'm just thinking about your dad and Fifi. If they're anything to go by, there's another 40 years of you.
My Auntie Fifi, she's still going.
Yeah.
She's 105.
I know, it's incredible. You'll be around for a long time. Cheers, Mr. Geldof.
Not after this tour.